All right, welcome everybody to our workshop today with Arizona G&T and NERC talking about the conventional changes for GADS coming up this year in 2025. We're going to get started here in a couple of minutes, and as you start rolling in and waiting, would definitely encourage you to go check out Power Community .io. We are building the world's only power community, professional community just for power generation folks. It's going to have workshops like this, networking opportunities internally. There is a live chat functionality that will be launching when we do so in March 15th is what it's looking like. I'll send everybody an email after this to sign up for the waitlist. It is private to power generators and O&M, O&P consultants only. So there's lots of folks to learn from, ask your questions. We'll get started here at about 8:03 a.m. Just let people continue to roll in. While you're coming in, also just drop in the chat. Let us know kind of wherever you're calling in from. And I am calling in from San Francisco. Dave, Marty, where are you all?
I'm from Benson, Arizona.
And I am in Melbourne, Florida.
Very nice. Cool. Then for some reason, I'm pulling up the deck right now. It's just giving me a hard time. Of course. There you go. Westfield, Mass. My most of my family is from Springfield, Massachusetts, so not too far from that area. See Beverly calling in from there. Awesome. We'll give it one more minute for folks to keep shuffling in. And yeah, as you come in, check out powercommunity.io. The link is in the chat. That's going to be an incredible group, starting up here in a couple of weeks or about 4 weeks, and put in the chat where you're calling in from. Yeah, one more minute here, and we'll start with Marty and Dave just kind of introducing themselves. I'll walk you all through the agenda, say a little bit about why we're hosting this webinar, and then we'll get into it. And hopefully we have enough time for everybody to pester Marty about all of their GADS questions for this year throughout the webinar. So awesome. All right, we're going to get started. So welcome everybody to the conventional GADS reporting workshop. We're here with Marty from NERC and Dave from Arizona G&T. You all want to give a quick intro, who you are, what you do, and what you're going to talk about a little bit today?
Marty,
yeah, sure. William Martin from NERC, also known as Marty. I'm going to talk today about changes for data collection for conventional GADS primarily. But you guys can ask me any questions you have. If you have any additional ones, we'll maybe not cover those on the call today, but we're here to help. So that's going to be my focus today, and looking forward to it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Hartman. I'm a business services analyst for Arizona G&T Cooperatives, also known as Arizona Electric Power Cooperative. And I don't perform the GADS reporting myself, but one of my responsibilities in this role is streamlining our data collection and reporting process, including the GADS reporting process. And so I'm just going to speak about our recent experience with automating the GADS reporting and data collection process, and how we did that, and just some of our experience with that. So
awesome. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Can everybody see my screen? I kind of just like accidentally shuffled it about. I'll make sure we're all good there. Awesome. Just a heads up, some other workshops we have this week. We actually just had one yesterday on GADS. So if you or your team are working on that right now, the recording will be available soon. It'll all be in a follow-up email later this week. And we have same kind of format as this one. In a couple of weeks is Solar GADS, or sorry, same format as yesterday's with Solar GADS. We'll talk about some of the things that need to be done to meet the deadline in, I believe it's May 18th, April 18th, I think May. So a quick agenda. Marty is going to kick
Adam,
off.
we actually don't see the slides changing, so they didn't get to see the QR codes. We just see the title page right now.
Oh, good. Let's figure out why we're doing that. Huh. Very strange. All right, let's try. All right. How about that? Can you see it? And then can you see it changing now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So there are the QR codes for that. If you want us to send you the links to them, just ping me or Josette here on the chat, and we will send you the links at the end. Josette just put the solar one in the chat as well. So agenda today, we're going to have Marty talk about upcoming deadlines, what is changing and when, some of the challenges that NERC is seeing in regards to this, and how to approach them. We're going to follow up the second half of the webinar with Dave talking about some of the challenges that his team has faced over the past few years with GADS, how they're automating out some of their, some of their current processes to streamline it, make it a little bit more efficient, and finally, how they're implementing those changes. So quick about Integ, why we're hosting this. We are a software platform that helps automate plant operations. We work really closely with GADS, and we've been working or with NERC on GADS. We've been working with NERC for, I don't know, probably 25 years and in some fashion or the other. So this is just a great opportunity for us to help folks figure out their GADS problems and get prepared for 2025. Couple of companies we work with. But Marty, ready to take it away.
Thank you, Adam. So hello, everybody. Again, this is Marty from NERC. I can't see all the names on the webinar, but I bet if you've ever emailed NERC before, you've probably gotten a response from me or one of my colleagues. For conventional, especially, I work with a gentleman named Leith DePriest. That's LeethDepriest. He is the conventional guru. He worked at power plants for 30 years or something like that, and then he did GADS reporting exclusively for a couple of entities for about 10 years. So if you've ever communicated with us, you've probably heard from me or him or both or other team members. So I want to be clear about this date thing because it's confusing, very confusing. So for conventional gas, for conventional, of course, I'm talking about what we call thermal generation plus hydro plus nuclear. So we're not talking about wind and solar. Primarily focused on conventional today. So for 2024, all of the data for everything is due in what is it, 6 days. So it's February the 18th, next Tuesday. Normally the deadline would have been on Saturday, but since it fell on a Saturday and Monday is a holiday, we pushed it to Tuesday. So for 2024, the big change on the conventional side was that we're asking for additional design data. So that's design data for the units in your fleet. Previously, we only asked for a couple things. Now we're asking for much more detailed design data. And in addition to all that design data, we're also asking for all of the performance and event data for all of 2024. So, and if you may have encountered that you went out to the system and attempted to upload your event and performance data for 2024 earlier in 2024, and you were stopped because the system said, we need your design data first. So need that design data first, and then all of the event and performance data, and it's all due in 6 days. So very timely webinar. Hopefully you're already working on it. I hope everybody's not at the very end. So that's 2024. So even though we're now in 2025, that's all of the data for 2024. So for the first quarter of 2025, the deadline is May the 15th, 2025. And that's only event and performance data, because in 6 days from now, you would have already provided us with your design data. So we're only looking for event and performance. So next slide. So prior to this new design data that we're collecting, we collected just some very generic pieces of information for every type of thermal unit. Nothing specific to the type of unit. So for 20, so you may be asking, well, what is all this extra stuff that you're collecting? So I've got one of the spreadsheets up here on my other screen, just as an example. So system startup type, time in minutes for normal cold start to full load, time in minutes emergency start to cool load, black start capability, heat steam recovery generator, commissioning year, so forth. You see that we're collecting much more detailed information. On some of these unit types, we're collecting up to 50 pieces of information, whereas in the past, we only collected 8 or so generic ones. So lots more work to do as far as collecting that. And this screenshot on the right side of the screen here, this is from our data reporting instructions page on the NERC website. If you go to GADS and then you go to the data reporting instructions page, you'll see those links. So those are the appendices. Also on that same page are all the worksheets where it will detail all these additional pieces of design data that we're looking for. Next slide. Okay, so one thing that we have run into continually and is a big problem and is confusing is this whole concept of a combined cycle plant. Combined cycle, of course, is gas turbines are one part of the plant, and then you have your heat recovery steam generator on the other side of the plant. When you combust the gas, it spins the turbine that generates electricity, and then when the heat that's generated from that process is also used to generate steam to spin another turbine. So as we've asked people for all this design data, we've had to make clear that regardless of whether or not you've previously reported the entire plant as one big thing, a block, or you've reported by the individual units, in 2024, when we're collecting this design data, you need to create the individual components. So you need to create gas turbine 1, gas turbine 2, and the heat recovery steam generator, and give us all of that information I talked about for the design data. But then when you start reporting your event and performance data, if you only want to report that data for the entire block, you can do that. It's just a checkbox on the screen. So that's what I'm trying to depict here in this screenshot. I don't know if it's clear or not, but so you can report event and performance by the entire block, or you can report by the individual pieces in the block. But regardless, you have to create a block and you have to create the individual pieces for the block. This is what that last part I was talking about was in the OATI system. You need to create those things so that everything gets set up correctly. My colleague Leith that I mentioned, I think he spent about 50% of his time working on this. So next slide. So why do we do this? We get questions sometimes, what do you need this for? So from a NERC perspective, our primary responsibility is to make sure that the security and the grid is secure and resilient. So having this data helps us know more about what components are failing, what needs work, so forth. So that's why we need the data to advance our mission. We're not selling it. We're not using it for nefarious purposes. We're using it for our mission, of course. And it allows our documentation to be much more complete, because if, for example, FERC, who kind of dictates a lot of the things that we do, FERC comes to us and says, well, I see a problem here with outage events, what kind of units are these? In the past, we really couldn't tell them. So going forward, we'll be able to do that. Next slide.
Adam, next slide. Oh, we're not seeing it change if you're changing it. Okay, looks like we're having a technical difficulty. 1 second, y'all.
Sorry about that. My computer like gave up on me. Oh, that's okay. Can everybody see the new slides?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, yes. Sorry. So the most common challenges that we see, so yeah, lack of time. People wait till the last minute. Then they realize they've got months worth of work to do in a week. Happens all the time. Usually GADS reporting is assigned to unfortunately, it's assigned to the lowest person on the totem pole. That's not always the case, but sometimes that's the case. And it's great if an entity has a person who's very knowledgeable, that is able to look at the events that are being reported across the fleet and the performance data and see if it is reasonable or not. We don't always get that. We appreciate it. We appreciate good descriptions, for example. That really helps us out. So yeah, lack of familiarity and expertise. Sometimes the person that is collecting the data, I've been dealing with this poor user, and on the wind side, who has a giant fleet, and all of the, I know I'm talking about wind, but just to illustrate my point, we've got this giant fleet here in the United States, but all of the data for the all of the SCADA data is coming from some people who are sitting over in Spain. So she's just getting the data, doesn't have time to look at it, interpret it, so forth. So that's a big challenge for her. And a lot of times we have a lot of turnover, not so much in conventional units, but we do have some for these gas peaker units and reciprocating engines that are only run once or twice a year. Those change hands fairly often. So our contacts in OATI may not be accurate. So we send an email out to a contact and say, hey, you haven't given us the design data for this unit. And they say, oh, we sold that a year and a half ago. So then we're chasing people down. The person who might know something about the sale is long gone. So that's one of the challenges for NERC and for our users. Next slide. So how to address some of those challenges? Start early, of course. Procrastination is the enemy. We encourage people to report as you go, look at it as you go. Don't try to pump all the data in at the last minute and discover you have a problem and then you're working until midnight. And something else my colleague Leith always emphasizes to me is that if you're a reporter for this data and you don't really know that much about the data, you don't know that much about the plant that it's coming from, just call those people on the phone, talk to them, create a personal relationship with them so that they don't feel like you're the enemy, and understand what they're saying to you, even if you don't know too much about how a power plant works. Try to learn as much as you can. I'm an accountant. I have learned more, but I worked at Southern Company for 20 years in the accounting area. Even though I worked at a power company, I didn't know that much about how power plants work. But since I've come here, I've learned a lot. So I encourage others to try to gain that same knowledge. All right, next slide.
It's also a great plug for the power community too. If any of you all didn't catch that at the beginning of the webinar, there is a link for it in the chat, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit at the end. But yeah, love that call out of talk to more people, don't be siloed.
Yeah. Yeah, so make it as simple as possible, but not too simple. I think there's some silly quote that's attributed to Einstein that says, make things as simple as possible, but not too simple. Something like that. Figure out what's slowing you down. You know, these of course are just process things. NERC has no control over that, but we just hear these things from a lot of people that, well, you know, I don't know. I get the data from this other group. I'm submitting it on behalf of this guy. I don't know what it means. So when we start to look at your data, we're trying to help you get it in. We've got tons of validations in the system. Your data is triggering some validations. We're looking at it and we're saying, well, there's no way this is true. And we ask you, is this true? And you know, you say, I don't know, because I don't know anything about the plant. I don't know anything about this, you know. So give yourself as much knowledge as possible. Documentation, of course, very important. A lot of turnover in jobs these days in general. The better you can document, the next guy that comes along will thank you for that. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. We're not big bad regulator. I mean, you see me, you hear me talking, I'm a normal guy. Leith is also a normal guy. We're both from the South. So we're eager to talk to folks whenever we can. We have other team members as well who are willing to help. The last thing we want is for people to sort of throw up their hands and give us junk data, because when we start to do analysis, you know, garbage in, garbage out. So we encourage people. Most people do want to give us the highest quality data they can, and we're very thankful for that. So yeah, reach out for whatever. Reach out to us for help, and we're there. We'll be there. I think that's it for me. Yeah, this is a silly quote I think about all the time. Is I was talking about this quote in relation to a car. You know, somebody can drive a car without knowing how the car works. All you need to know is how to turn the steering wheel and work the gear shift and the gas and the brake. But, you know, there's all these complex systems that are underneath. And, you know, the more you know about those complex systems, the better positioned you'll be to drive the car better and make it last longer. And so just think about that.
Yeah, I think Marty, you mentioned to reach out to you, and we've also been working on, you know, validating and formatting GADS data for, you know, 25 years on our end too. So if any of you ever need any help, Marty, or rather, I think he said Leith is the guy to go to, and of course, we're always open to help you all with that as well. If you just want to run it by us, we do that all the time. We're happy to extend a helping hand on that too. All right. Thanks so much, Marty. Really appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for Marty? I know we also had the wind GADS yesterday, and maybe there's some questions for him if anybody came from that too. can either raise your hand, drop them in the Q&A, or put them in the chat. We'll get them either way. All right. Marty, must have been pretty good. They're all ready to submit their GADS tonight, 6 days ahead of time. Nice. I know Dave is.
Yeah. I'm not, but somebody from our team is.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, Marty. Dave, you want to give us a quick rundown?
Sure.
Who you all are?
Hello, once again, my name is Dave Hartman. I'm a business services analyst for Arizona GNT Cooperatives, also known as APCO. And just to give you a little insight about who we are, Arizona GNT has 6 member cooperatives across the state of Arizona, as well as portions of New Mexico and in California. And our Apache generating station in Cochise produces approximately 625 megawatts of generation with 3 steam turbines and 4 gas turbines and 1 small solar field. And as of recently, Arizona GNT uses Integ's Power Manager and Power GADS software to automate our outage management and GADS reporting. So, next slide. So, so I was tasked with streamlining our data collection and reporting processes, including our GADS reporting processes. And as I suspect may be the case for most entities, our GADS reporting process is just part of a larger overall data collection and reporting process. And as we took a hard look at how we collect and utilize our data, it became apparent that there was some room for improvement. And we wanted to accomplish a few things. Our previous process had multiple instances of manual data entry, a lot of which was redundant data being entered in multiple databases. For example, the logs kept by our operators and our shift supervisors at our power plant were handwritten, which then had to be reviewed for GADS event information and then typed into multiple locations, into multiple databases. And of course, the more reliant the process is on manual data entry, the higher the risk for human error. So in order to validate all of that data, it was taking 3 people about 2 to 3 days every month to validate that data. Also, once the validation process was completed, we weren't reporting the data very efficiently to the parties that needed it. Our reporting database was not accessible by all of the interested departments in our company, so reports had to be built by a few individuals and emailed out to all the users that needed it. Those reports took quite a bit of time to build, and they were not very user-friendly, and they were not customizable by the users that received them. Next slide. And so what are we trying to accomplish by automating? What are our goals? Obviously, we wanted to reduce errors caused by manual data entry, and we wanted to reduce the amount of time wasted by redundantly entering data in multiple locations. And we also wanted to reduce the time required to prepare reports. We're a fairly small shop, and we tend to wear a lot of hats, and so we needed to streamline the process as much as possible. I realize this workshop is focused on conventional GADS reporting, but I did want to mention that APCO has one smaller solar facility that may be required to register and report in the near future. And we also have additional larger solar facilities that are under construction that we may be required to report for. So the ability to automate our solar generation events was a major factor in our decision to automate, because we just don't have the manpower to be able to collect and manually enter the event data for what we expect to be several hundred inverters. And so also one of our one of our other goals is that we wanted to expand users' access to data, and we are working to change our reporting culture and our reporting philosophy in that regard. In the past, we spent several days each month creating large one-size-fits-all reports that would be sent out to all the users. And now we have the ability to provide users with access to reports on demand, and they have the ability to customize their own reports. Next slide. So how are we implementing change? We are working to implement automation with our conventional units first. Once automation is configured within the software that we're using, adding additional conventional units to the process is very easy. We've already got the template, and so it's very quick to add new units. This was important to us because we're in the process of building new gas turbines, and since we already have a gas turbine in operation, just like the new gas turbines that we're building, it's really easy to add those to the database. So we're also working to automate our solar generation in preparation for having to register those units for GADS reporting. And so when we started this journey, our original goal was to obviously streamline and simplify the GADS reporting process and our overall generation data reporting process. But as we progressed through this project, we learned that one of the most efficient changes we could make was to automate the event entry process so that events flow from the outage management system directly into the GADS reporting database. This means that we only enter the event data a single time instead of in multiple instances as in the past. So when we diagrammed our old process, we counted about 18 instances of manual data entry. We were redundantly entering the same outage data, but as we've automated, this process has been reduced down. And when we finalize the automation process, that outage entry should be reduced down to a single time, a single instance. So going from 18 instances of entering data down to a single instance translates to a very considerable time savings for us. Of course, there are some approvals and some validation that goes along with that process, but just the reduction in manual data entry has translated to a considerable time savings. Next slide. So we are creating better reporting options for our users. Our users now have access to Power GADS and can create their own customizable reports. Instead of having to search through a 30-page PDF report to find the one piece of data that they were looking for, they can now just build custom reports with only the data that's pertinent to their department's needs. We also have plans to export data from Power GADS to our Pi Historian. That's new for us. We just stood up Pi Historian, and obviously we will still use Power GADS to calculate and store GADS reporting data, but by exporting the GADS reporting data to our historian, it helps us maintain a central data warehouse for all of our analytical data and provides additional flexibility for reporting and analysis. So we did learn some lessons along the way. Of course, our experiences have not been without some speed bumps in the road. Transitioning to an automated reporting process has caused us to reconsider who should be performing the reporting responsibility. Due to some events in the past, our GADS reporting has been performed by our maintenance planners, and they've done an amazing job. Now that events are automated to flow from the outage management system directly into the GADS reporting database, We are working on transitioning the reporting responsibility to the shift supervisors at our power plant. And the idea behind that is that we feel it will be more efficient for reporting to be performed by the personnel who are submitting the outages, since they are already familiar with the events and the details of the events. So now we're working through the process of providing some GADS training for our shift supervisors so they have a better understanding of how those GADS events are reported. And once one result I suspect will occur over time from that change is that I believe their logging activities, the logging activities performed by our plant personnel will evolve. In the past, details regarding GADS events were mostly collected and reported after the fact by personnel who were not present during the events. So there was always this disconnect between those that were logging the events and those that were collecting and reporting the data for GADS. Now this responsibility will reside with personnel who will both experience the event and report the event in real time. And since they will be relying on their own logging activities in order to accurately complete the GADS reporting, I expect their logging will evolve to reflect that responsibility. Next slide. And so transitioning, went too far. There we go. So transitioning to an automated reporting process has, like I said, made us reconsider who's in charge of what and allowed us to gain operational efficiencies. So
I have a question about that actually. Me personally is how did you all go about, saying like, all right, one of the problems is that the right people aren't reporting this, and then identify who was it that you ended up, wanting to have report it? Like, was there a big like internal process, or was it just kind of like some hand raises?
Excuse me, still fighting the cold, but so that's actually something we're still working through. So it's not finalized yet, but it's really, I think that the trigger is that those that were reporting those events, or they're still actually reporting those events, there's that disconnect between collecting the data and being able to interpret the data and report it. And so our maintenance planners are constantly having to call our shift supervisors or our plant operators to get clarification on events. Because a lot of times they're reporting events that happened over the weekend or on night shift when they're not there, and so they're constantly having to communicate to get all the details and times and things associated with those events, and it takes a lot of time to gather all those details and collect the data. And so it just made sense for us, after some conversations with our maintenance planners and with our shift supervisors, it just makes sense for us that since we're changing where the GADS event is reported or is entered into the database, it made sense for us to also change who is reporting that. And let me explain that a little better. So, the maintenance planners would gather that data and report it, like I said, after the fact. It's something that's already occurred, and so now they have to go enter the GADS event. But now, since we can enter the GADS event from the outage management system before it ever starts, and then we update it as the actual event occurs. We update the actual start times and stop times as they occur in real time. That information is entered by the shift supervisors, and so it made sense that since they're entering the events from the outage management perspective, that they'll report that event for GADS because they already know all of the details. Did that answer your question, Adam?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, at least, well, for me. And I think something you and I talked about before too, that may help a lot of folks in this call who are in similar situations as you, starting to think about automating it, maybe just changing processes, is how did you approach that with leadership? You had some interesting kind of, I guess, tidbits of information there last time we talked about it.
Well, it was, for us, it was to address that with leadership. It was very helpful to diagram the whole the flow of data and the whole process of how those events are created and how the data is collected and then reported and all of the different reports that trickles into. So we we diagrammed that, made a flow chart of how that is happening and who's doing the reporting and when and where. And I think it was very helpful for leadership to be able to picture that and understand the process better. It's not something that that our leadership was super involved in. I mean, they were aware of the process and they received the reports, but they weren't super involved in the details of the process. And so it was very helpful for them to see that data flow and who was doing who was performing that process and where all the data came from. So
was there a bit of an aha moment?
There certainly was for me. And I think with a lot of people involved, there's certainly some aha moments. And there's there are definitely a lot of aha moments as we progress through the automation configuration and how much data we can automate and how much of that data we can streamline and simplify by automating and it just it trickles down from there into the reporting. It's a lot simpler. It saves a lot of time. It takes some time to set up in the beginning, but it translates to a lot of time savings in the end. So it's just been amazing to see how much of that information we can automate. And it always seems like there's something else. There's always one more piece that we can automate. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, once you've got it all there, right, all the data is there, you say, hey, all right, well, compliance is a little bit easier, outage management is a little easier, right? So yeah, cool to hear. Does anybody have any questions again for Marty or Dave before we wrap up? Dave is on a kick to be more efficient, so we finished up a little early. Awesome. Well, a couple of items for your resources that were mentioned today. Marty mentioned GADS, of course, at NERC.net, which is probably where most people are sending their emails. Leith and Marty are both available to message. There's also a full list of GADS updates, and we'll send all these around in a follow-up email. And of course, David has offered kindly to answer any questions and help folks work through kind of those early steps that he'd been working on. I think for the past maybe like year plus that you've been working on this, at least.
About a year.
Yeah, it's a long process, even no matter how quickly you try to push through it. It's an entire organizational change. And yeah, of course, if you guys want to see a little bit more about the stuff that Dave is using, I see some folks on the call who are currently working with us, who are working with us in the future. Things, check it out. We'd love to show you what we're working on. And as I mentioned before, Marty is available to help with some of the formatting that that you all are dealing with. We're also happy to help. Just hop on a call and look at what you're doing. Like I said, we've been automating and building processes to validate and automate the formatting, validate and format the data. Also, one last plug to check out powercommunity.io. It's pretty great. We have about 50 people signed up for the wait list. It's launching here in, I believe, just a couple of weeks on March 15th. And yeah, we're so happy that you all could join us today. It was a lot of fun walking through some of the things that Marty and Dave are working on. And of course, yeah, well, we can stick around for a couple more minutes too for any other questions. Don't be shy. We're here to help.